Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Semi Pro. My name is Dalton Barrett. Joining me today is my good friend Joshua Clements as we talk about The Happening. Josh, I cannot, for the life of me, understand why you made me do this. Like, what did I do to you to deserve this?
You said to me, hey, we're going to watch a load of bad movies for the podcast. You have to watch every single one at least 3 times, and then we're going to talk about it.
I have never said we have to watch everyone at least 3 times.
No, you did. I remember you saying that to me. You said you have to watch everyone at least 3 times, probably closer to 6.
Well, yeah, we want to make sure we have an authentic understanding of what the movie is before we talk about it. We want to be accurate to the people.
Yeah, but then that means you also have to talk about The Happening, the best movie of all time.
This was like... this was wild. It was fun, though. But it was wild. I say it was fun. It wasn't fun.
No, it was a lot of fun.
There are at least 1 or 2 moments in this movie where my face turned from a frown to a smile. You know?
Yeah, mine did that. From about the 1 minute mark to the hour 30 mark, I think.
Right. Yeah, I was watching you from your walls, and you were just super into this one. You watched this, just clarification for those listening, you watched this movie like all the time.
I have been said to have watched this movie all the time. In reality, I put this movie on usually in the background or when I'm going to sleep because it's a movie with not much to it, which makes it nice when you don't have to focus on it.
Yes, but also should be noted, you have, on more than one occasion, watched this movie twice in 1 week.
Yes and no. Not like not I haven't like sat down and been like, yeah, you know what? I'm in the mood to watch The Happening again. I think that one might have been a joke because we started talking about how much I watched The Happening or how I like The Happening. And I pretended to watch it twice and then just left it on in the background while I did other stuff. Because this was the first time in a while that I've sat down and just focused on the movie.
And you shouldn't have. This movie does have its defenders, as we found out yesterday by reading some of the quotes by them on IMDb reviews.
I'm convinced that those are just either people who are clearly delusional or troll quotes. Guys like me who pretend to like it.
Most of those reviews were from 2008. So they were people who had just seen the movie and left that review. Because IMDb was around in 2008.
They were just ahead of your time, you know?
This movie makes me tired. Me and you were having this conversation beforehand. We were just fine. We were talking it up before we started recording. And then we started talking about The Happening, and now I'm tired. I'm going to let you do the plot breakdown because you know this movie like the back of their hand. Folks, there was one scene in this movie where something is happening and Josh says, I hate that Marky Mark closes the door here. And then a whole 3 seconds later, Mark Wahlberg shuts the door behind him, a door that we didn't even know was there. So Josh is handling the plot breakdown for The Happening. And I'm just... I don't remember what happened, so I need you to cue me back in.
Well, first off, unfortunately, Daniel's not here today because he made the right choice of choosing sleep over talking about The Happening again.
Correct. I was just gonna gloss over it, but yes, that is correct.
If Dalton could, he would too. However, he is recording. If I, could be bothered to record, I'm sure I'd be doing this alone.
If you knew what you were doing, you would be doing this alone.
So The Happening. It starts off, you got 2 people in the park, they're just chatting it up, having conversations like average human girls.
I forgot about the
And
park
then
scene.
all of a sudden, one of them kills themselves by taking out her hairpin and stabbing herself in the neck with it. And then we move on. Scene's done. Scene's over. You move on to a construction site where you hear the end of an unfunny joke that sounds like it's probably mildly racist. And
You
then
don't know. It could have been a funny joke.
I don't think it was. The way, it's all about how you tell a joke. And he went, "Welcome to Jamaica. Have a nice day." I don't think it's funny. I think he should have been happened. But instead, people on the roof get happened, and they all dive off. End of scene. And then you move on, and you find out your hero for this movie is Marky Mark, who's playing a science teacher, who
Is just so confused.
he's so confused in every scene.
Like,
He's like a smart guy though, because he's got a sweater vest on. So
and it's 84 degrees out. We find out in a moment.
And there's like a news report that says it's 84 degrees, and he's perfectly fine.
The thing with Marky Mark in this movie is it's his face. Because I think Marky Mark does an okay job at doing... He does as good a job as anyone else in this movie does with whatever they were given. Because Zooey Deschanel, she's a really talented actress. I believe truly that Marky Mark is a talented actor.
Did you purposely call her Zooey Deschanel?
Yeah, I did. No, I did not. Like this movie is full of people who are very, very talented. But Marky Mark just looks confused throughout the whole movie. Like his eyebrows are constantly raised, and so I have to assume that M. Night Shyamalan asked him to do that, like to build suspense or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in this movie is failing to act because of their ability. It's just because M. Night Shyamalan's an insane person who's like, no, keep this expression going. I want, the eyebrows need to be completely dented in towards the middle.
And it genuinely feels like I hate it. Go on, please.
Well, from here, you see him giving a science lesson. He's trying to get these kids invested in science. It's not going to work, but
which
it's a
is
bold
a whole
move.
other thing too, because these are like high school science kids. Like he's supposed to be teaching them physics, and he's like, "I need you to get interested in science so that you can become a scientist," which is just like.
That's out of all the things in this movie, that is far from like the weirdest or the worst part. Because teachers always try and get you invested in their subject so that they can inspire you the way someone inspired them.
It's usually like, oh, you need to be invested in math so that you pass this class, not so that you can become a professional mathematician.
Sure, but scientists, I mean, it's the same with English teachers. They're like, oh, you need to learn about this so that you could become a writer, or so on and so forth. That's fine. Marky Mark's just trying to help these kids get invested.
Sure,
but
whatever, man.
What's not fine is that they seem to be living inside a university building and have the weirdest outlook I've ever seen. And someone comes in and is like, hey, Marky Mark, we need to talk to you. And it's the principal talking to all the teachers, and they just go, it's a terrorist attack in Central Park. Get out now.
And I will say, it could be just that's what New York high schools look like. I don't know. I've never been to high school in New York. But yeah, so they say it's a terrorist attack, and they send all of the kids home from school, which makes sense. I mean, they did that with 9/11 and whatever. That's a thing. Especially if you're in a big city like Philadelphia, you wanna protect your people or whatever. And I can see how they jumped to the conclusion of this being a terrorist attack, but it's not that like I get that it was supposed to be a reveal that it wasn't a terrorist attack, but it never feels like a terrorist attack. Like it just feels like, because they always cut to the close-ups of the plants. And it's like, well, if it was a terrorist attack, why would M. Night Shyamalan be focusing on the plants? This movie frustrates me. Continue. I'm also, for folks listening at home, I'm not in control right now. That also frustrates me. But I'm going to let Josh do the plot breakdown because I don't remember what happened in this movie.
I'm going off of this without any notes too, so this is extra fun. Then we meet Marky Mark's wife, who's being played by Zooey Deschanel, who is on cocaine for the entire movie.
You also said Joey.
Yeah, I'm keeping it going.
Yeah, so they keep cutting up to close-ups of her eyes. And now I know it's a setup, But she just looks
Right.
coked out of her brain. Her pupils are so dilated.
She just looks like she's got like completely blue eyes.
Like
She
it's
looks like she's in Dune.
right. They're so dilated. There might as well not be a pupil because this girl is doing all kinds of cocaine. Zooey Deschanel is just like, which once again, now I get it's a setup for the end of the movie, which we'll talk about in a minute, which is equally as stupid. You also missed the part where we pan through the park and there's the guy in the really, really, really rolled up jeans.
Oh yeah, no, that was later.
I'm sorry, I thought it was now.
It might have been, but there is a guy who rolls his jeans up long past his socks to like the middle with his shin.
It's borderline rolled up to his knees.
It's borderline criminal, if we're being honest.
I want that guy's story. Did he get happened? What happened to that guy?
He's in the middle of a park. He definitely got happened. He took his rolled up sleeves and hung himself with them or something.
Did his jeans not protect him from what was happening?
Yeah, the plants went. Now this guy's got drip.
This guy won't ever procreate anyway. We might as well just leave him alone.
This guy clearly does not interact with human people. Leave him be. But yeah, then we cut to Zooey Deschanel, who, beyond looking coked out, is just like staring at her phone, and a caller named Joey keeps popping up.
She's calling herself.
She's like, she keeps hanging up, and you're thinking, ooh, well, you're not thinking this because you're not invested in the movie, but you should be thinking, oh, is she cheering on Marky Mark? What's going on here?
Well, and also it's set up when Joe Leguizamo says, that she wasn't ready to get married because she was crying at the wedding.
And also, Marky Mark tells John Leguizamo, who's a math teacher at his school, who's his best friend, that they had a fight. Like, they had one singular fight, and now John Leguizamo really hates her to the point where I think he wanted to kill her at a few points.
Yeah, apparently the fight was in a deleted scene. It's only on the DVD. They show the fight, and the movie kind of opens with the fight to introduce you to these characters, and then he goes to work, and then Joey Leguizamo learns about the fight, and I think that would have been a more powerful way to do it. But to each his own.
Well, you got to watch the extended cut.
Right, this movie is just the right length. Short. It's 90 minutes on the nose.
It's M. Night Shyamalan's shortest movie. But yeah, so Marky Mark comes home. She's like, "Is it a terrorist attack? What are we gonna do?" And he's just like, "We're leaving. Let's go." So they pack up their things. They have like a sort of not a proper argument, more like a tiff, where they have a disagreement. And they head to the train station to meet John Leguizamo and his daughter, who is, I think, might be his actual daughter because they look so similar.
I researched
creepy.
up. It's not. But the picture at the end of the movie that she is given by Zooey Deschanel is a picture of her real mother with John Leggy Bobeggy. And so that's kind of sweet. Yeah, wholesome. Too bad both of her parents are dead.
They leave from Philadelphia. They're like, oh, my wife's in New Jersey. She'll meet us at her mother's house. And so Marky Mark and Joey Deschanel are both like, okay, let's go. John Leguizamo just kind of gives her a weird look, and so she feels awkward, and she goes, "I'm not going to get to sit with you guys on the train," and just walks away.
Well, she's mad because she assumes that Mark Wahlberg told him about the fight, which he did, and she's mad about that. She's like, "I'm not going to sit with you guys anyway. I hate both of you. I'm going to go sit on my own spot."
I cried on my wedding day.
I cried on my wedding day, which means I wasn't ready to marry you, Mark Wahlberg of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. You guys can sit together, but I'll sit elsewhere. Which you would think, he would sit with his wife, and Joey Legs a lot would sit with his daughter. But no, that's not how they do it at all.
Um, they're on the train. Another weird part of this movie, I guess, this is just Shyamalan trying to say, yeah, people in Philadelphia are friendly, which I know is not true. Um, but everyone talks to everyone else like they've known them their whole life. There's some woman who, at one point in the movie, just turns to Marky Mark and goes, "Hey, look at this video of this guy being murdered."
I can see that when you're in like when everybody is equally freaked out trying to figure out what's going on and equally confused, I can see like a level of camaraderie that would happen between everyone. Like I think that seems like the most realistic part of this movie is that in a time of by this point two different terrorist attacks happening in two major cities, like people would be communicating with one another, you know? Trying to figure out what's going on. So that's not that far-fetched to me. Plus, they're not in Philadelphia anymore. They're in Filbert. And people in the small town of Filbert are definitely chatting it up with one another.
You can't love Filbert. Isn't that the show that BoJack Horseman was filming?
It was,
Uh,
yeah. But yeah, so the train breaks down, and that's how they wind up in Filbert, right?
right. The Marky Mark talks to the conductor and is like, "Hey, what's going on?" And they go, "We just lost contact with everyone." Uh, which okay, sure. On the train, Joey Deschanel takes a call from Joey and is like, "Hey, we just had tiramisu," and then hangs up. Uh, so she hasn't actually cheated on Marky Mark. She just had tiramisu with some guy. So
She went to
it's fun,
dinner with a friend of hers from work.
right? And is feeling unbelievably guilty about it.
Now, she did lie about it, which is like, okay, so I can see where the guilt is coming into play. It's kind of like you caught these feelings at just the right time, and the right event happened to help you sweep them under the rug, because had you let them. I get what he was going for, but it's. I
But
don't
M
care.
Night Shyamalan does not know how human people work or interact,
Which
and
seems to
so
be a theme in both these Marky Mark movies and just the movies we watch on the podcast in general, is just people don't act like people in these movies.
um, this is every single piece of dialogue between two people does not feel like something two people would say, and that's true in a lot of movies. But in this one, it feels like this whole movie feels AI generated.
Mm.
Like everything feels like it was written by an AI, and M Night Shyamalan just put plant bad.
I mean, but Bobbin hopped it at about the halfway point, and he
Right.
just looked at it and listened and watched the movie, and he said, "This is got to be the worst dialogue I've ever seen in a movie."
That was like maybe 3 minutes into it.
What is it about the early 2000s and these disaster type movies and just movies in general where the dialogue was, did people not know how people talked in 2000 and
I
0
blame
to
Roland I blame Roland Emmerich because I think he started the trend of like, oh, you don't need to write good dialogue as long as you got fun bits in your movie.
But even in the Roland Emmerich movies, Independence Day, for example, is a bad movie, but it's super fun. The dialogue isn't great, but at least the actors are delivering it in a way that feels like they're human beings. This feels like a movie full of robots.
Because it is. That's actually the twist in this one is that it's an alien planet. This is the planet that became the planet of the apes.
Every person in this movie feels like Luke Skywalker from that episode of the Book of Boba Fett, where his voice was done using AI and his face was a CGI model. Every
Where he
single
was a
person,
robot.
yeah, every single person in this movie feels like that.
It's kind of incredible. And so after the train stops and everyone's trying to figure out what they're doing, and we see a lion kill a man in a funny death scene, um, they all decide, okay, we need to get a car and drive. We need to drive 2011. So Marky Mark's running around. He's like, "We got a kid. Help us!" And John Leguizamo decides, "Hey, I'm going to abandon my daughter and find my wife. So I need you guys to look after my daughter for me while I go with these strangers to find my wife in where is it? Princeton."
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. So he goes there, which makes
and
sense, but also it's happening there, so you probably shouldn't go there.
right, someone else like has a phone call at one point in Princeton and hears their daughter being happened So like,
So that's when Marky Mark assumes that John Legs times 10 has
is
been
that,
happened. And
yeah,
also little girl, Jess is her name. She
yes,
also
yes.
realizes that her father and mother have both happened to
Well,
been happened.
shortly before John runs away, uh, Joey Deschanel, just being a considerate person of the like 8-year-old child that is there, goes, "Hey, I'll hold your daughter's hand. Like, I'll look after her while you go and get your wife." And he just threatens to beat her,
Yeah, he's
basically.
like, "Don't you touch my daughter." And it's like, "Okay. All right,
Okay,
man."
I'll just let her run off and get happened. How about that?
Like, and so Marky Mark and Joey Dashhound, they get in the car with the guy who looks like Count Dooku from the Clone Wars cartoon.
He's got the most crooked face you've ever seen.
It's so crooked and it's so long.
And he really likes hot dogs. He
And
just really likes
he
hot dogs.
really likes hot dogs. And then we have the best still of the movie. The best still that is so subtle in what it's trying to convey, and it really begins to convey this message of like environmentalism and whatnot, but it does it in such a subtle, understated way.
When John, leg and an arm, gets out of the car and cuts his wrist with broken glass.
Yeah, we weren't there yet. Welcome to the podcast, Daniel.
The part you're talking about is after that, though. Is it
it?
not? Maybe.
I don't know. When does the
No,
greenhouse happen?
I don't remember this movie.
It's. I think it's the John Leguizamo glass bit is after we see the greenhouse because they get in the car, and then
Josh, I don't think you would know anything about the happening. All
No,
right?
I wouldn't know anything about the happening whatsoever.
But yeah, so it's this shot, and it's this huge wide shot of this dude's house and his greenhouse. And his house is on one side, and his greenhouse is on the other. And in the background are the steamiest smokestacks you've ever seen. And they are massive. Like, they are huge. Just right in this dude's backyard. And it's such a subtle scene, you know? Like, it so subtly conveys the message of...
Wait, you think that had something to do with the message of the movie? That's just Philadelphia.
You think that had something to do with what was happening?
Wait, what was happening?
What's
happening?
What happened?
2008.
But yeah, so there's just the worst shot you've ever seen, followed by Marky Mark and his family going into the greenhouse, and the guy walks in and he goes, You ever had hot dogs? I like hot dogs.
He said, "I'm packing some hot dogs for the road. You guys want some?" Hot dogs get a bad rap, but they're a perfect shape.
I don't know if hot dogs have hot dogs ever gotten a bad rap. Like, has everyone gone, "Nah, hot dogs, not for me"?
I think around
some people, because they're like,
especially
right,
because everybody was getting all healthy and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's like the dirty,
everyone was eating
unusable parts of a pig.
Everyone was eating the plants, which caused them to happen.
2008 was before all beef hot dogs existed. That's when everybody just had like dirty pork beef chicken combo gizzard hot dogs.
Now, right around the time that the hot dog conversation happens, and his wife brings out a vat of mustard. Apparently, he just goes, "Hey, do you have the mustard?" And she holds up like a cooler.
I think the implication was that the mustard was in the cooler, not
No,
that the cooler was filled to the brim with mustard.
I think it's filled with mustard. He doesn't say you have ketchup or condiments. He just says mustard.
I think the hot dogs were probably in the cooler, Josh.
No. Global cooling is part of the message of this movie, and M. Night wouldn't do that. But
what did M. Night mean by this?
Around this kind of time, we cut back to John Leguizamo, who he's in the car with people, and despite driving on a straight road, they get jump scared by people who have been hanging there.
It's such a stupid scene.
They're driving, they're all looking around, and then the camera pans forward, and there's just a load of people hanging from the trees, which they would have seen at least 5 minutes ago. But the movie treats it as if they are also just seeing it for the first time.
And then it holds on them for like 5 whole seconds. And after about 2 of those seconds, a girl screams. It took her 2 seconds to scream after the camera panned to the thing that she had been seeing for minutes.
Yes.
Cool. Cool. I love this movie. Greatest movie of all time.
10 out of 10. M. Night did it again.
She screams, and they all start like panicking. So John Leguizamo distracts her with a maths question. If I gave you $1 a day, and then doubled that the next day, and then doubled that the day after, and I did it for a full month, how much money would you have?
And she says
Which is
$20.
apparently, like,
She said like
which is apparently
$30.
over $1 million. Well, at first she said 10, and apparently it's over $10 million is what he said, and I just don't think that that's true.
I mean, I guess it makes sense if you double it every day.
Yeah, because you go like 2 to 4
Yeah,
to
he only said for a month. I don't think that would get you to 10 million.
Well, no, because when you start getting to like in about a week, you probably start getting to the hundreds, and then from the
No,
hundreds,
not even that. I just did it 7 times, and I got to like $1,000.
Yeah, it makes sense. But while he's saying this and he's trying to distract this woman from being happened, he looks up and he sees the tiniest cut in the whole of this, like the roof of this car.
Which, by the way, is when you turn around. Like, you see that, and you turn around. But he just ignores it and keeps driving straight into the happening.
He got happened.
Well, they by this point they were already in the happening zone, and it's too late for that. He's just kind of come to terms with it. The car then stops and then zooms into a tree, and the driver like flies out at Mach speed. And apparently everyone else died in that crash, but John Leguizamo's fine, so he just gets out, sits down, and starts cutting his wrist with glass, and then he's out the movie. He got his paycheck, and he was done.
Well, the driver flies through the freaking windshield.
Exactly. He flies through the windshield, and then everyone else apparently dies in the crash too, except for John. So I don't know what.
Who's just perfectly fine, has no blood on him or anything. His tie is just slightly loosened.
His tie was loosened.
Right.
John legs the Alamo. His tie was very loose.
Yes. I mean, it wasn't even that loose. It looked like just like he had like a kind of late night drinking or something.
And it was probably loose prior, and we just didn't notice it.
Right? I don't think there were any visible changes to his character after getting in that car crash that killed 4 other people.
Because they rammed this Jeep into a tree. Also, horrible car choice if you're going to drive through what's happening.
Well, I don't think they were aware of how the happenings happened.
Yeah, well, they knew it was airborne.
Yeah.
Yeah, they knew it was
well,
airborne.
but they were also like stranded at some random like gas station, and he kind of just took the only car that was available.
Point is, John loves Alamo Steakhouse. Should have gone with Mark Wahlberg and Zooey Deschanel
and his daughter
and his own child to get hot dogs. That's what should have happened, but that isn't what happened because it didn't. It's the happening.
He got happened.
He did. He got happened. Josh, continue, please.
He gets
yeah. What else happens in this movie?
So
what else is the happening?
What's happening next is Marky Mark and his family and Hot Dog Guy and his wife are driving through, and she goes, "Hey, is that some animals up ahead?" So Marky Mark steps out of the car, which is not a good move, and looks at it through binoculars that he could have just done inside the car.
Correct.
And sees dead bodies on the road. So they're like, okay, that's a happening zone. You don't want to go.
He says, "Oh my God, it's the happening 2008."
And I remember I was like, "Why is he getting out of the car?" And Josh, you just started defending it. You were like, "No, it's fine." He knows.
Every time that me and Dalton criticize something in this movie, Josh just defended it with his life before we even finished the criticism. I don't think it really makes sense that he's getting out of the car. Shouldn't he be getting happening? Like, no. Actually, he's a certain distance away. The wind hasn't hit him yet, so he wouldn't be getting happened.
I just said, you know,
this part
the movie's got the answer. The movie's got the answer.
This movie doesn't have any answers.
No.
It had answers. It had answers.
Especially when we get to the reveal of what is happening, which Josh is about to give us here momentarily.
Well, there's a little bit before that because they go, okay, we can't go to that happening zone. We need to back out. So they start driving back up the road.
Then we meet Buster Bluth from Arrested Development.
Buster Bluth comes down and he's like, no, that it's happening down there too. And then another car comes up at the same time and goes, oh, it's happening down there too.
Well,
And they're
like 5 other cars come up all at the same time.
yeah, and they're like, oh, it's all happening down these roads. So they're just kind of stuck at this like little cross section. And there's a guy who happened to live here, luckily, and he's like, oh,
The happening.
that happened. He goes, yeah, so it's happened all around here, but there's a little small village down there. You know, it's not even on the maps. It should be fine. It should be safe. Let's all go there. And for some reason, they decided to split into 2 groups, which just meant that one group walked slightly faster than the other group because they were going the same place, the same way. And as we do that, the hot dog man is walking up there with Buster Bluth, who just starts saying his firearm is his friend, and it will not leave his side.
Most sane Buster Bluth moment.
Most sane U.S. Army member. And he shoots himself. Then everyone in that group starts picking up the gun and shooting themselves, which causes...
At least that was the very subtle implication that M. Night gave by having multiple gunshots go off after showing a scene exactly like that, where
multiple
someone
gunshots
shoots
go off.
themselves and then everyone else picks up the gun and shoots themselves.
And that's when Mark Wahlberg starts to figure out what is happening.
Right. Somehow that's when genius Marky Mark, who I totally believe is an intelligent person in this movie,
No.
figures everything out.
What happens first is Zooey Deschanel's like, we can't be...
Yeah, what's her name?
Yeah, Zooey Deschanel. We can't be, uninvolved observers or something like that, as if this is anyone's doing. And their idea to fix this is to go and walk towards the gunshots.
To be fair, they do think it's someone's doing at the moment.
No, they've said multiple times it's not a terrorist attack.
Yeah, but everybody still believes it's a terrorist attack, which is a contention I had with the movie, because they keep saying it's not a terrorist attack, and yet everyone still thinks it's a terrorist attack.
Well, do you believe what you see on TV?
I don't believe anything.
Right.
I only believe in what's happening.
I only watch Fox News.
Marky Mark says the best thing ever. He goes, "Be scientific, douchebag," which is
an improvised line.
He improvised that line, and it's about the only line that has any resemblance to something Marky Mark would actually say.
Or a human being.
Or any human being in this movie. And he goes like, okay, it's attacking large groups. Let's split up into smaller groups. And it works. The wind goes around them. They don't get happened.
Which I would like to note. There were 5 people in the car that John Love's his mother was in.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 5 people in the group that Marky Mark and Zooey Deschanel are in.
Yeah,
and
three of those people are children.
That doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
why does that change anything? You keep saying
the
that.
point is,
They are
the reveal that it's smaller groups of people is stupid.
They're smaller people, so the wind doesn't recognize them as much as the
2 of them are borderline grown
And when-
teenagers, and
when
one
John
of them is a
Leguizamo,
child.
when John Leguizamo arm happened, he was in a car, so the wind was getting at them through a tiny little slit in the roof of their Jeep. That's much less wind to person ratio than a group of 5 people in which 3 of them happen to be children. 2, fat teenagers, by the way, barely children. They were like little midget men.
They weren't even that short. They were as tall as Marky Mark.
Right.
One of them is called Josh.
All right,
That's
so
why you love
Josh,
this movie so much.
You're defending this scene, and it's stupid.
Yes.
You're defending this movie, and it's stupid.
Yes. So that they don't get happened. And they walk to a model house, which just continues the Arrested Development connection that this movie never made.
Does this movie take place in the Arrested Development cinematic universe?
This movie want to be Arrested Development so bad.
So bad. But as they're there, they have a little gag where Marky Mark tries to drink water, a liquid or whatever, and it's
It was
fake.
wine.
It was wine.
Marky Mark is an alcoholic.
He also talks to a plant.
Yeah, a plastic one.
Oh,
'cause
that's
it's
my
a
favorite
model
scene in
home.
the whole movie.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey, we're just trying to pass through here. I'm sorry." And he comes to the realization that he's talking to a plastic plant.
And he
All
says
of them-
that. He says, it's plastic. I'm talking to a plastic plant, as if it's not equally as weird to be talking to a real plant.
Well, yeah, if it was a real plant, then it would have been fine.
Yeah.
I don't think
What are
it
you,
would have been.
stupid?
I guess. I guess I am.
But yeah, so
Because I
then they
watched
move
this
on.
movie with the two of you.
Then they moved on. They find another house that's been like boarded up,
Not another house. That's
Oh,
what happened.
which leads to the
best scene in the movie.
This is the best scene in the movie. So they walk up to this house that has like boarded up windows, and someone's like, one of the kids is like, "Hey, I can see
Josh.
someone moving in there."
It was Josh. Josh started being an asshole.
Yeah, and then Josh starts being an asshole, and he just goes like, "We're gonna kill you. I'm gonna break into your house and murder you," because they're just trying to get some food for Jess.
Right.
And
not just the new girl Zooey Deschanel, just the name of John
The child.
Linguini's
Just the child.
daughter, who looks like it was his real daughter.
Yeah,
Right.
we've been over that.
Right. But so he what does he say? We're just trying to get some food for a little girl, you pussy. And
Correct.
Shoot
Those are
it
his
up.
exact
No,
words.
that sounds like a made up line. That's what he says.
right. He literally says that verbatim.
and then shortly after saying that, it's shot almost like a comedy scene where
Not even almost, like just straight up.
okay, so you see the kid, right? The kid is the center of the frame, and then from outside the frame, basically, a gun just pokes in and shoots him.
Yeah, like the door like creaks open and a shotgun just pops out from the darkness
And I see the
and just
shotgun
shoots
come
him in the
out.
stomach.
And what goes through my brain is they're not going to shoot the kid. And then they shoot the kid. And then the shotgun goes back in. And just like an episode of Scooby-Doo, it then comes out the window and shoots the other kid
This time in the face.
in the head.
And then and then Marky Mark's like, "Oh, well, that's a shame." And
And
moves on.
Marky Mark is really confused by this.
Marky Mark continues to be confused. But they're like, "Oh, I guess we'll just move on."
Well, I mean, to be fair, what else are you going to do? They're going
Right.
to shoot you if you stay there. And you don't want new girl, little child to get also brutally murdered. So you move on, you know?
Yeah,
You know,
I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. So they move on and they find a house run by Mrs. Jones, I think her name is.
Mrs. Jones and me tell
Who-
each other fairy tales and I...
She's just like sitting on her porch and she's like, "What do you want?"
She gets really upset when Marky Mark looks at her lemonade for some reason.
You
I
want
don't
some
really
of my
get-
lemon drink? She don't even call it lemonade.
don't-
It's lemon
I don't
drink.
I don't get her character because I think it's meant to be, insanely paranoid, but then it doesn't come across as paranoid. It comes across as like bipolar.
It comes across
Right.
as she's already been happened.
Right. Pretty much, yeah.
Comes across as she's a schizophrenic person.
Pretty much. And then she's like, "Yeah, you guys can stay here." She invites them to dinner, and this poor, hungry, orphaned child is like, I'll have a biscuit, and she slaps her hand away. And then they all go to bed. Marky Mark wakes up the next day. No, before Marky Mark wakes up.
First, she accuses them of trying to steal because she hears them whispering. I guess
Mhm.
she says, "Are you trying to steal from me?"
Right, and Mark, no. And then she goes,
What?
are you going to murder me in my
No.
sleep? Are you going to kill me as I lay down? And he's like,
No.
no. which is the absolute sign that Marky Mark will definitely murder her
Right.
in her sleep.
Despite Marky Mark being the protagonist of this movie, based on that delivery, I fully believed that he was going to murder her in her sleep.
Absolutely, without a doubt. No doubt, no question.
And he didn't, and I was horribly disappointed. Worst movie of all time.
She murders herself and
Right.
so
But he wakes up the next morning and his wife and the child are gone. So he thinks he sees Mrs. Jones like laying in bed,
tell each other fairy
and
tales.
he goes over. He goes over and he's talking to her. He's talking to her. She's trying to say something, and it's like a wooden doll that is speaking to him.
Well,
Apparently,
it's not. You said that when the doll was never speaking to him.
it was.
The crazy old schizophrenic woman was just talking, and she was off frame.
Well, he turns around and she's really annoyed at him for something, and she's like, "Get out of my house."
Well, she thinks
That's it.
that he's trying to steal her doll.
Yeah, because she's a
Josh,
crazy old paranoid
how are
lady.
we tracking with happening better than you?
Come on, man, this is your movie.
I told you I've never seen this movie before. But
Alright, so what else happens in this movie?
So next up, she goes outside, I think to pray or to just check on her like flowers. And as she's out there, she gets happened, this is the big deal. This is a big deal in the movie because before now, singular people weren't being happened. It was people in groups.
Except for they were, but okay.
Right, they were.
This is a big deal. She gets happened, but she also she doesn't get happened in. Well, I guess it does make her kill herself, but it makes her kill herself by also trying to kill Marky Mark by walking up to the windows and smashing them open.
That's true. I just don't think. I think she was just killing herself. I don't think the implication is that she was also trying to kill
Yeah,
Marky
I think
Mark.
because she was banging her head on the wall, and she kept going around the house as she was banging her head.
She just
She
realized
just happened to
that-
reach the window.
Yeah, she just happened to reach the window, and then she happened to realize that was an easier way to happen herself.
Right,
No,
yeah.
she was trying to kill Marky Mark.
This was where the scene where I go, I can't believe Marky Mark's going to shut the door. It happened. And he shut the door.
Right.
Yeah, it was really
This is the
that
part where Josh revealed just how many times he had seen this movie.
that was the moment where where Josh's sanity just went out the window.
Right.
That happened a long time ago, if we're being honest.
But this is the moment we realized it.
So Marky Mark locks himself in, and he figures out that Alma and Jess are
Alma.
down the garden in a
You mean-
shed somewhere.
We have not established what her name is so far. It's Zooey Deschanel.
Yes.
Right.
The new girl.
They also just basically dropped the whole Joey thing because it was nothing in the first place.
Well, they talked it
No,
out.
that was, what do you mean? That was the cameo from the greatest director of all time.
But they talk it out. She tells Marky Mark about Joey, and Joey says, or not Joey, Marky Mark says, "Oh,
He says that he went and bought lean
I
for
went and bought cough
for
syrup.
$10 just to talk to a pretty girl at the pharmacy."
which is
Right, and
not
then she
nearly
goes-
as bad as going on a
Well,
date
she-
with someone, but we'll
she
let
goes-
it slide."
Well, just after she goes, "Are you joking?" And he goes, "Yes." And she's like, "Thank you." So I don't know where she was going with that, but they that part's over. They're happy now.
What is it with Marky
Um,
Mark and lean?
Marky Mark just loves lean. Man.
Marky Mark loves lean.
He went through the lean portal in Planet of the Apes. The drug in Max Payne was lean. Is there lean in Daddy's Home too? There's got to be somewhere.
Probably.
He
Those
just-
9-year-old girls were sipping on something.
Yeah, I was gonna say he just straight up drinks lean at one point.
He just mixed lean for Will Ferrell. That's what was actually in the Cocoa Cups.
It was the
I wish-
makeup lean.
I wish we were still talking about Daddy's Home too.
Man, I wish we were still watching Daddy's Home too.
All right, keep going.
I don't. I
wanna
like
get-
that happening.
Yeah.
I wanna
Okay. What else
finish
happens
this.
in this
But
movie?
we're close to the end. You got this. We're in the home run now. This
You mean the
his
home
wife
stretch?
his wife and no, it's home
No,
run.
he said what he meant.
I tell you what I meant.
We're in the home run now.
Yeah.
He his wife and the child are like in a shed down the bottom of a garden, just playing around, and he's like, "They're happening." So they shut the door and lock themselves in because they're like, "Oh, we have to stay safe." And he's locked himself into a room because he has to stay safe.
And they're communicating through through a pipe.
Right, they're communicating
Yes,
through a pipe.
they're talking through a pipe.
Which among like in everything in this movie, it's hardly the least weird part.
I don't know, man. It's pretty weird. It's pretty odd that these two pipes just connect to one another.
I don't know about that.
There's
The
just
house
an
is-
exposed
I mean, that's
pipe
that's
from
kind
the
of what
shed.
pipes do.
Yeah,
Right,
but
they
there's-
connect.
Hold on, but there's an exposed copper pipe from the shed to the house with no purpose other than just being there so Mark Wahlberg can communicate
Oh,
with Zooey
you know,
Deschanel.
You don't know that there was no purpose.
That pipe might have had a purpose, and then it's just outgrown its purpose.
What would the purpose
Yeah,
have
much
been?
like you.
What would the purpose have been to connect a pipe with the shed
I don't
to
know,
the
man. I'm
house?
not an
I don't-
architect.
I
I'm
don't know,
not
I'm
a
not no-
piper. I
I'm
don't.
not
I don't be
no
laying
Breen.
pipe out here.
I'm not Neil Breen, but no, either way, they're just talking to each
I
other.
am
They make up.
nothing of a builder, but here I dreamt I was an architect.
True.
Either way, Marky Mark's talking to his wife, and they
Once
they
again,
make up.
needs to be noted, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the exposed pipe in the thumbnail. It's just an exposed pipe that goes from the shed to the house.
Yeah, do you not have like light switches that don't do anything anymore because they've been outgrown their uses?
I think
No,
what he's
but-
saying is he doesn't see what the use could have been in the first place.
I don't. Yeah, it's more
Which
that
I
there
also
would
don't, but I don't know anything about pipes.
there would
So
never
could-
have
there could
been
be
a
very
use.
obvious
I'm
use.
sure. I'm sure there was probably some use in the Civil War when Mrs. Jones was young.
I mean,
Back in
maybe
the
like she does mention that. Okay, hold on, it's all coming back to me.
She says it's a still water.
No,
like,
no. She says
shed.
that the shed used to be used to hide slaves during the Underground Railroad.
Did she say that?
She did say that. Yes, she said that earlier as they.
I feel like
as they
it didn't
come in.
happen. If Josh doesn't remember it, I don't think it happened.
She says something about that it used to be a place for slaves to escape or whatever. That's a thing that's said. So that would make sense why the communication pipe is there. It's all coming together. Maybe I'm just confusing this with Kenobi because I'm also watching the Underground Railroad unfold in a Star Wars TV show. But I don't think so. I'm borderline positive that's a line of dialogue that is said in this movie.
It might be. Who's to say?
See, M. Night's law of everything. But they decided like, oh, we can't keep running from this. It's going to catch up to us eventually. And they decide to walk out into the grass to happening to be together. But
They decide
by
to
coincidence-
kill themselves in front of this little girl as opposed to leaving her safe.
Well, there were
in-
the
no, they
little
took
girl
the
was going to be
girl.
the little girl was going to be killing herself too. So
I mean, yeah, but you still probably I get you love each other, but you should still probably happen separately.
well, no, then because then the little girl would see you get happened.
right.
Then this
Holy
way,
crap! Among Fortnite.
this way, the little girl was not the imposter.
The little girl was sus. She vented.
She's gonna vent, but
She's
they
gonna
walk
pipe.
out. They walk out, and it's 9:58. It's 9:58 a.m. That's very important because we find out the event stops at 9:57 the next day.
The day before.
So they survived.
They did survive.
They
So
survived.
stupid.
I hate this movie.
So stupid. They decided to leave a minute after it happened.
It was done happening.
And then they just go on back to their normal lives. We cut to 3 months later, and they've adopted the little girl.
Oh, and the best shot of the movie where coked out new girl finds out that she's pregnant, and her eyes turn into hearts like a cartoon character.
So stupid.
That's completely real.
My favorite part about it was I said it, and you two just didn't believe me whatsoever.
We had
Well,
to
you
rewind.
didn't just
'cause we
say
saw
you
it.
said it and rewinded it, and I still didn't believe you, even though I was seeing it.
I still don't believe you, and it's etched in my brain. I can see the still image in my brain right now, and I
can
don't
see
believe
the
it.
hearts in her coked out eyes.
I love it. Yeah, and then
And then it
the
happens again.
the sequel the sequel tease is it's happening again, but in France this time.
I don't know
And
that
then it
it's a
ends.
sequel tease as much as it's like M.
No, it's a
Night,
sequel tease.
M. Night
It's
trying to set up
the
like...
movie.
No, that was the M. Night twist.
No, I
was that
think
it wasn't actually over.
I think it was more like, this is inevitable. It's going to happen no matter what. I don't see it as much as a sequel tease.
No, that's a sequel tease for the happened.
But they, because this movie is M. Night Shyamalan's horrible love letter to like old school Hitchcock style horror movies. Now it's it's more like
It's also a love letter to the earth.
Yes, we'll get to that in a moment. It's more like if you have a stalker and they write you a love letter and it's the worst thing ever. That's what this movie feels like to Alfred Hitchcock himself. But the Hitchcock movies, they would always kind of end super ambiguously and with this like twist of it's not over, it's gonna keep happening even though our good guys are safe.
It's gonna keep the happening 2008.
And I think that's more what it was rather than a sequel setup. Also, Josh, can you repeat to me how many times they said the happening in this movie?
Happening and variations thereupon happen about 25 times in the movie.
And we laughed at every single one
of them.
we started clapping and applauding like little monkeys.
Like when I saw
we
Morbius,
were hooting and hollering.
I did a backflip at one point.
I did 3, and then I tried to shoot Marky Mark with a phaser gun.
I love this movie. End of.
I hate this movie.
This movie, I will say, is moderately funny bad, but it's also just so incomprehensibly stupid.
Yeah, I think it's so dumb. It's more frustratingly stupid than it is comedically bad.
I don't think it's frustratingly stupid. I just think
it's frustratingly
stupid.
I just think it's baffling. And like it's baffling that first off, someone went, yeah, just give him full reign. It's fine. Because he'd already made 2 bad movies by this point. And then, not only did they give him full reign, he did this. He made this, presented it to studio, and they went, yeah,
let's release this.
Yeah, this looks like absolute garbage. Release it.
It's a whole lot more likely that what happened is they saw the final cut of the movie and they thought, oh no, we've already put so much money into this. I guess we've got to release it. I'd say that's a whole lot more likely to be what happened.
I wonder how much money this money made.
Josh, Google it. How much money
Jamie,
did this
pull that
movie
up.
make?
How much movie money made?
How much movie money makey?
Just Google that. Don't Google how much money did The Happening make. Just Google how much money did this movie make.
Okay, first off, what do you think the budget for The Happening was?
$2.
Well, I already looked it up, so I can't guess.
$74 trillion.
74 billion dollars. The budget for the movie was 60 million, and it made. How much you think it made? Like, unironically, how much you think it made?
I'm gonna say 74 because you just said that number and it's weirdly specific.
It's not that number. It's $1,500,000,000.
It is. It made $160 million. So it made back its budget. I guess it was technically a success.
On a technical level, this movie was a success. On all other levels, it was a complete and utter failure.
I've just found 2 YouTube videos called "The Happening 2 Official Trailer."
Real?
One is made by the Philly Captain, and the other one just says "The Happening 2 starring Paris Hilton."
Yeah. No, that's real.
This movie does have its defenders, like legitimate people who defend this movie,
but they're not allowed out. You know, they aren't allowed out without supervision.
Genuinely, I can't wrap my brain around
this movie.
Yeah. Also, hold on. I just
Yeah, we
found
should
an
have watched
article.
Morbius instead. Did you know that in Morbius, Matt Smith's character is named both Milo Morbius and also
Luxurious crown.
Xenu Crown?
I'm pretty sure.
Lucian.
I'm pretty sure Luxurious Crown is what Jared Leto prays to.
Right? I think that's what he makes the 15-year-old girls he inducts into his cult call him.
Hold on.
I'm
According
holding.
to Disasterpedia Wiki, The Happening 2 Invasion of the Zombies is an upcoming disaster horror film about zombies attacking Chicago. This film is going to be directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
I just don't think that's true.
I
The
think
film is to
perhaps.
be released on June 9th, 2013.
Yeah. Oh no, I
Filming-
remember that.
Filming began on June 15th, 2012 and ended. Is this movie...
It just says and ended. It doesn't say ended when, it just says it ended. It's done.
Ended.
It's
It's
over.
gone now.
Did this movie... Did this movie get filmed and just never released?
What is it? What is this website that claims that this happened?
Disasterpedia Wiki.
This is
Oh,
like a legitimate thing.
okay. Yeah, no, I believe him.
The plot is Dr. Jackson Courtwright and his best friend Dave Mack conduct a series of experiments on African Americans, which leads to a zombie virus in Chicago and threatens to send the human race into extinction unless they can. Oh no! I don't want to read. I don't want to finish that. Don't read the plot.
Hold on, I gotta go back. I've left the page. Okay, the plot breakdown. Dr. Jackson Courtwright. I got an ad for the Batman. Man. Dr. Jackson Courtwright and his best friend Dave Mack conduct a series of experiments on African Americans, which leads to a zombie virus in Chicago and threatens to send the human race into extinction unless they can find a way to eliminate all black people.
Uh-huh.
That's what the plot breakdown says on this wiki. I have a feeling. I have a feeling.
I think perhaps this is not a legitimate movie.
Maybe Sam Raimi directed it.
Maybe Sam Raimi created Disasterpedia.
How long do you think this has been up here? Like, you know, it's like those Wikipedia pages.
Oh, what you mean? sillyguy.fandom.com/wiki/the happening to invasion of the zombies? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened?
It's probably a while.
I found another article for something called The Happening Part 2 Goners with the Wind. But
Montages magazine.
yeah, it is. But there's nothing in the actual article about a movie called The Happening 2. It's just like what they would do with The Happening 2 Goners with
Apparently,
the Wind.
the script title was The Green Effect.
That's
Correct.
better than The Happening, if I'm being honest.
I hate this movie. I saw a lot of people in various reviews defending this movie, comparing it to the coronavirus.
No,
What?
There are people who are comparing it to Hitchcock.
Well,
Right.
yes, but
Like
also,
a lot of people.
Also, the coronavirus.
Right.
Man, this is just like frustratingly stupid, Daniel. I think you worded it perfectly.
It certainly was one of the movies we've watched for the show.
If you're a fan of Mark Wahlberg and M. Night Shyamalan,
If you really like that confused face that Mark Wahlberg makes, and you want to see him do it for an entire movie, watch this.
if you want to see him do it for 90 minutes, watch this movie. But other than that, I really can't think, because it's like
This movie has destroyed your brain.
I enjoy watching movies. I like watching movies that are bad but also funny. And there were several scenes in this movie where I laughed. There are some
Oh yeah, absolutely.
there are some great things. The death scenes are pretty great, but it's a slog to get through about half of this movie. Because it's not even that it's boring. It's still somewhat interesting, and even funny stuff happens. but it's so stupid that it's borderline frustrating. And also,
Not even borderline. It just is.
and also
this
this
movie
movie
frustrates
was
me.
released theatrically in theaters. This looks like a direct-to-video sci-fi. Like it's ugly looking.
For reference, after watching this, we were just like talking, and we put on. This was like in a recommended bit. It said, "Why don't you watch Fear Farm?"
With a
And
PH.
we put
Like
on
Fat Farm.
we put on Fear Farm, and Fear Farm looked more like a movie than The Happening did.
To be
Yes,
fair,
it's like significantly more.
Fear Farm came out in like 2019, so it was 11 years
Right.
after The Happening. It was 11
I
years
don't care.
after it
A
happened.
film, I don't even care. Even if it came out in the if The Happening came out in the 1960s, a film called Fear Farm should not look like more of a movie than something made by
Right. I
the
wonder what
guy
the budget
who made.
for Fear Farm is.
I'm gonna look that up real quick.
I don't know. I would not. I know we're gonna all give a recommendation / not recommendation.
I wonder who's gonna say what.
I personally am not gonna recommend this movie unless you really want to watch this movie. Because I will say, like, if you really want to watch it and you can get through how frustratingly dumb it is, go for it. Because there is some funny stuff in there, and you will probably find some enjoyment at laughing at this movie. But other than that, like, it's not funny enough for me to ever watch again. It's not going to be in my list of regulars that I like to schlock on. For whatever reason, it's in Josh's.
It's been in Josh's for years.
But yeah, no, that's going to be my recommendation. Just because this movie was so stupid, it frustrated me. And there's some bad movies that, like, I love to watch. This is not on that list of them. It's too comprehensible, and yet also completely out of touch with the world. And for that reason, I hate it. Daniel? Nope. Josh, you're going last.
This movie happened.
Truth.
I want to recommend this movie because I did unironically enjoy, or I guess I'm not unironically. I ironically enjoyed parts of this movie, but I can't in good conscience suggest that you watch this. Just look up the scene, look up the death scenes on YouTube, and maybe the scene of Marky Mark talking to a plastic plant.
Look up funniest happening scenes compilation.
Look up
happening
top
best
10
moments.
funny Family Guy moments.
Look up top 10 Friends moments. And then you appreciate The Happening more as a movie.
Look up top 10 Grey's Anatomy moments. God, I can't keep doing this anymore.
It's the Marky Mark confused face for me.
It's the Marky Mark eyebrow.
Despite what has been said, I don't think people should watch this. Like, I don't think you should sit down and watch this movie. But I do. I enjoy.
You should, however, stand up and watch this movie.
You should stand up because you'll be in constant applause. No, I put it on in the background, or I put it on when I'm falling asleep, and that's about the only 2 times I can recommend this movie. I think it's fine for one viewing because you'll watch it and you'll go, "Hey, that was kind of funny," like in a bad way, and then you can move on with it.
I think it's a perfectly fine movie to watch with a group of friends.
But if you're making fun of it,
yeah.
If you have a group of friends who you like to watch bad movies with, and somehow you haven't yet seen The Happening,
right,
then put it on with your buddies and watch it. Don't watch this movie by yourself because that would be so sad. Don't even put it on in the background by yourself because that would be so sad. Only people with horribly sad, disgusting lives would ever watch this movie alone.
Correct.
I don't know. I can't do this anymore. I think I'm putting up the podcast hat.
Well, it was a good run.
It was good.
Thank God I don't have to watch Ratatouille or whatever.
Ratatouille.
I
All
guarantee
right.
you, we will get more enjoyment out of Ratatouille than we got out of The Happening.
I just don't think that's
We'll
true.
get more enjoyment out of Ratatouille than we will out of the movies we're watching for the next month. And you know it, Josh.
So, as
I
the
didn't suggest
happening,
the Shyamalan sweep.
as the
I think
happening
perhaps.
and the Marky Mark sweep come to an end, which I know it's a sad day. We got kids crying, kids grown.
Man, my kids just crowed.
as the
This
Marky
movie
Mark sweep,
had me crowed the whole time.
as the Marky Mark
Nah, I'm
sweep
crying.
sadly comes to an end, we transition into a much worse thing that we're doing. Because we just watched an M. Night Shyamalan movie and we all hated it and despised it, we decided, why don't we watch 4 more? So next week, we kick off the M. Night Shyamalan sweep with The Visit.
I think, just for the record, I think at least 3 of these 4 are going to be fun.
I don't think that. I think you're giving M. Night too much credit. I think at least
At least 2.
in total, a full movie in parts throughout these 4 movies.
Josh, what is
So
the
like
third
like
one?
half of one.
I could
I
see
think
Probably Avatar. I think Josh
Yeah.
Josh said he was excited for Avatar.
I think Avatar's going to be funny.
I'm slightly excited for Avatar as well, just
I
because
am
I haven't seen it in so long.
But
I've
I've
never
only-
seen it.
I've only heard how
that'll be
awful it is. Like, I saw it years ago, and I can't remember a single thing from it. But I just remember
I just remember
how
the
everyone hates
fish.
it.
I remember the fish, and I remember not liking it despite being a child who this
I
movie was
remember-
made for.
I remember being 10 years old and thinking, no.
Right.
So I'm excited to watch it as a 22-year-old man.
And think the exact same thing.
Hey, do you guys remember we were watching the Star Wars prequels and we were like, man, these are bad. And now
Man, M. Night Shyamalan makes me like the Star Wars prequel.
all right, it's time to wrap up. Thank you for watching,
Finally.
everybody. If you are watching on YouTube, just so you know, the audio version of these comes out on our streaming platforms 1 week prior. Do something with your life that is not watching The Happening. Make something of yourself that is not doing this podcast. And we'll see you on the very next episode of Semi Pro.